Welcome back to the channel, Clashers. Today's topic of discussion is going to be the upcoming September balance changes. Supercell has confirmed that there will be a number of buffs and nerfs to troops, spells, and for the first time, hero equipment, with a lot of hero equipment getting nerfed. Now, before we begin going more in depth with the buffs and nerfs, were these changes warranted? Yes they were in my opinion. Let's face it, the addition of some/majority of these hero equipment have made the game way too easy, to the point where the game has become boring almost and too static. People often use the Root Riders as a scapegoat for a decline in the game's difficulty, but in reality it has been the hero equipment all along. I don't know about you guys, but I kept getting better and better after every Root Rider nerf, despite it getting nerfed, which shouldn't have been happening. Now I realize that it probably a combination of not only me getting better, but also my hero equipment being leveled up. We're coming up on a 1 year anniversary of hero equipment being added into the game. Over the course of the year, hero equipment has largely remained untouched, with the exception of bug fixes for Royal Champions Haste Vial and Barbarian King's Giant Gauntlet. There are a lot of people upset at these upcoming changes, and they have a right to be. They have poured a lot of the hard to earn ores into upgrading these equipment, and some might have even spent gems on them if they missed the event. Another problem that might arise from these changes is that Supercell will constantly nerf the old equipment to make whatever new equipment comes out the best one, similar to what happens in Clash Royale. It's too early to tell if that's the plan, but for now these changes were needed. The game was simply too easy in its current state. Now let's talk about these balance changes, but first take a look at my current army. Basically my entire army is getting nerfed, or at least a majority of it, and I bet you guys are in a similar situation, despite the default hero equipment still being the most common according to some charts. Those who play the game more seriously will be using these equipments that are getting nerfed. Let's begin with the troop and spell change. Out of all the troops being changed, only the Super Barbarian raised my eyebrows, as I really didn't see them that much and they have already been nerfed in the past. Starting off with the Overgrowth, its radius and duration are getting decreased. The duration honestly might even be a little buff. The radius means that the spell will need to be dropped more precisely. A good nerf in my opinion. Valkyries are getting a hit point nerf. Valkyries aren't as dominant as they used to be, but I still saw them a bit. It's annoying to see a line of Root Riders followed by a line of Valk destroying the base. Hopefully this nerf makes that more uncommon. The Druid is getting one less bounce to his healing. I believe this will be more noticeable if you use more than 2 Druids. A good nerf, as Druids are a bit overtuned. Super Barbarians are getting a damage nerf. Like I said, I don't know if Super Barb really needed a nerf. Bad nerf. Let's talk about the big one next. Barb equipment. Starting with the one that changed the game ever since its introduction, and the one that's getting nerfed the hardest. The Giant Gauntlet. Self-healing, DPS, and damage block are all getting nerfed. The Giant Gauntlet has always been overtuned. This will bring it back down more in line with other equipment. Rage Vial and the Splash Radius didn't get touched, so it will still be a strong equipment in my opinion, but overall a good nerf. The Spiky Ball is getting nerfed as well, more like a slap on the wrist, as it's getting one less bounce at its max level. Probably won't even be noticeable. A good nerf. On to some buffs. Earthquake Boots. Some people believe this to be the weakest equipment, but I believe it was always better than the Barb Puppet. EQ Boot will have a bigger radius, damage percentage, and HP increase. A good buff, cementing itself as better than the Barb Puppet at lower levels especially. Barb Puppet will have increased ability duration, number of Barb Bond, and HP increase. A good buff overall. I still don't see common equipment outclassing epic equipment. Moving on to the Royal Champion. Some interesting nerfs and buffs. First off, Haste Vial has reduced duration. A small nerf, but it will still perform the same overall in my opinion. A good nerf. Hog Puppet. Hogs will have reduced levels. I've seen that they will go from 13 to 11 at max level, despite it saying level 9. This nerf will be felt somewhat, especially since Haste plus Hog Puppet is a popular combo. The Rocket Spear is getting buffed by increasing the number of spears, a good buff for all you Rocket Spear enjoyers. Moving on to the Warden, who is overall being hit really hard to his equipment, which makes sense as he had the most viable number of equipment out of any hero, starting with Eternal Tome, which is getting reduced duration, a whopping 1.5 seconds at max level. Not sure how to feel about this nerf, as it's really hard nerf considering Eternal Tome doesn't offer any other benefit. The best equipment in the game maybe got hit too hard in my opinion. Healing Tome duration is decreased 5 seconds at max level, another really harsh nerf. Healing Tome was a bit too good of a common equipment according to Supercell. Apparently, the Rage Gem will have its damage boost nerfed across all levels. A small but okay nerf. The Life Gem will have its max HP increase buffed. Might be worth it in some armies if you don't want to use Warden Apprentice. Good buff. Finally, the Queen. The Queen's Frozen Arrow will have a frost reduction, a small but good nerf. The Archer Puppet is getting a decent buff actually, as the Archer spawned will spawn invisible and not all at the same time. This fixes the greatest drawback of the Archer Puppet. The archers would spawn and either get immediately obliterated by Splash or get the Queen obliterated by Splash even if she went invisible. Or both would get obliterated. Actually that's what will happen 99% of the time. A great buff. Overall, most of these nerfs were minor, with the exception of the Warden and King's Giant Gauntlet. But since most of us use, dare I say, all or most of the things nerfed, our armies are about to get a whole lot weaker, as all the small nerfs will accumulate. How do you guys feel about the nerfs? Good or bad? Let me know in the comments below.